Here are the top stories for today, November 23, 2021. The country's resupply mission arrives at the Ayungin Shoal without a hitch, a week after it was blocked by Chinese Coast Guard ships, drawing condemnation from the international community and President Rodrigo Duterte himself. The government's COVID-19 vaccination drive continues in full swing. The latest batch of 680,000 Moderna jabs will be used in vaccinating eligible minors and as booster shots for senior citizens and immunocompromised persons. President Rodrigo Duterte is not mincing his words against the International Criminal Court, saying he will only stand trial and go to jail if sentenced by a Filipino judge, a few days after the court halts its probe on his administration's war on drugs. And the National Privacy Commission will meet telcos over the spate of spam text messages preying on subscribers under the guise of dubious job offers and other schemes. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story for today, the resupply mission boats of the Philippines have successfully reached the Ayungin Shoal. In a press briefing today, acting presidential spokesperson Carlo Nograles confirmed the arrival of the Philippine boats. It can be recalled that these same boats who were out to transport supplies to military personnel in Ayungin Shoal were blocked water cannoned by the Chinese Coast Guard ships. Nograles said President Rodrigo Duterte expressed concern over the recent flare-up in the Ayungin Shoal and called for self-restraint. The president also told China to remain committed to the conclusion of an effective and substantive code of conduct in the South China Sea.
Kaugnay sa issue ng Ayungin Shoal, dumating na ang resupply boats sa Ayungin Shoal at nakarating na sa BRP Sierra Madre ngayong tanghali.
Another shipment of government-procured Moderna COVID-19 vaccines arrived in the country. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Special Advisor Dr. Ted Herbosa welcomed the arrival of the 682,360 doses of Moderna jabs. He said these are intended for booster shots of healthcare workers, senior citizens, and persons with comorbidities. Of the shipment, the government is expecting 4 million doses more of Moderna brand until next week. The Philippines has so far received over 134 million doses of different COVID-19 vaccine brands. Herbosa said the government need not procure more jabs at the moment as the stockpile is still enough to cover the priority groups. The National Privacy Commission is set to meet with telco firms to discuss the spate of text scams. This as the NPC warned the public against the spread of spam text messages posting jobs and other offers. NPC Commissioner Mon Liboro said cell phone numbers are protected under the Data Privacy Act. He urged cell phone users not to freely give away their numbers and other personal information. Liboro also warned against text blasting, particularly this coming elections. He said the NPC and the Commission on Elections will set up guidelines of data processing for political activities. Those spreading spam texts may face imprisonment from 6 months to 2 years or a fine of 500,000 to 2 million pesos. Unvaccinated employees who need to be present in their workplace can do so, subject to regular swab testing. Under the ITAT Rule, all partially vaccinated employees in the public and private sector tasked to do on-site work need not undergo regular RT-PCR tests at their own expense as long as their second dose is not yet due. In a virtual forum, Labor Assistant Secretary Maria Teresita Cucueco also clarifies the policy. She said that those who are under the work-from-home arrangement can still render their services, but for on-site employees, the required RT-PCR test result must be submitted at least once every 2 weeks. Otherwise, their absence will be deducted on their leave, or a no work, no pay rule shall apply.
Those who do not want to be vaccinated but have to report on site, you can report but you have to be tested with the RT-PCR. Yun yung unang lumabas po, no? In 148B. and it will be at the worker's own expense. We have to understand that vaccination is really a big strategy towards protection for all of us against the severe and critical COVID disease.
Two cities are coming up with measures to ensure that the gradual reopening of their local economy will be safe. In Baguio City, only vaccinated PUV drivers are allowed to ply the city routes. Mayor Benjamin Magalong earlier stressed the importance of vaccinating all PUV drivers in the city as he noted a high number of virus transmission through the public transport. He said this is one way of protecting the drivers as well as their passengers. The latest policy is supported by the officials of the local federations of taxi and jeepney associations. Meanwhile, down south, moviegoers anticipate the reopening of their cinemas soon, but the Cebu City government says only fully vaccinated individuals will be allowed to enter movie houses. A vaccination card will be needed at the entrance. Meanwhile, operators of the movie house will have to manage the ventilation and airflow of their establishments to prevent the spread of coronavirus. This means they have to strictly enforce the allowable capacity and keep the doors and exhaust fans open at all times. The actual opening of their establishments would depend on their level of compliance with the IATF protocols. More government offices are gearing up for the upcoming National Vaccination Day program. The details from Janice Scott.
In Western Visayas, over 1.2 million individuals are expected to avail of the COVID-19 vaccines during the 3-day national vaccination rollout. This is equivalent to almost 500,000 vaccinees per day. The vaccination coverage is open to first, second, and booster dose for frontline healthcare workers, senior citizens, and adults with comorbidity. In Soxargen, enlistment of volunteers is ongoing for the COVID-19 vaccination drive. Among the volunteers needed are health screeners, vaccinators, registration personnel, encoders, post-vaccination monitors, data consolidators, and health educators. Unvaccinated residents are also urged to register with their local government units or RHU. The Department of Justice is also lining up the inmates or persons deprived of liberty for the inoculation drive. Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara said the DOJ would request the National Task Force Against COVID-19 to include PDLs in Bureau of Corrections facilities during the November 29 to December 1 mass inoculation drive. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Workers will be allowed to go to vaccination sites on November 29 and December 1 without any cut on their salaries. The 3-day event also includes November 30, which is a regular non-working holiday to commemorate the birth of Andres Bonifacio, the National Heroes Day. Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. says November 29 and December 1 will be working days so as not to disrupt economic activities. The National Task Force has already crafted a synchronization matrix and inoculation timeline for the implementation of the 3-day vaccination drive. The government targets to fully inoculate at least 54 million Filipinos by the end of the year and up to 77 million by the end of the first quarter of next year. The government is also targeting to complete the administration of the third or booster doses for senior citizens and adults with comorbidities before the end of the year. Senior citizens and individuals with comorbidities can go to any vaccination site for their boosters and additional or third dose. In San Juan City, senior citizens got their COVID-19 booster shots this morning, a day after the local government opened the pre-registration to healthcare workers, senior citizens, and persons with comorbidities. The Department of Health earlier instructed local officials to provide separate lanes for the booster doses and the primary series vaccination and another area for close monitoring of adverse events. Still to come, 18 private schools join the pilot run of face-to-face classes nationwide. And consumers are warned against pork products from ASF-affected areas as the holiday season nears. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Paolo Jones po para sa kampanyang Disiplina Muna na pinangungunahan ng DILG. Bakit ba kailangan magparehistro sa pagpapabakuna laban sa COVID-19? Mahalaga magparehistro dahil ito ang unang step sa pagpapabakuna laban sa COVID-19. May 3 pamamaraan upang makapagrehistro ang isang Pilipino na nais mabakunahan. Una, ang online registration sa inyong local government unit o LGU. Pangalawa, ang pagpunta sa mga vaccination centers at pagkuha ng registration form. At pakikipag-ugnayan sa mga pinuno ng barangay o sa mga barangay health center. Tandaan, online, sa mga vaccination site o sa mga barangay health centers ang pagpaparehistro sa pagpapabakuna kontra COVID-19. Muli ako po si Paolo Medjones, Disiplina Muna Ambassador na nagpapaalala, huwag matakot magpabakuna. Bida ang may disiplina. Magparehistro at magpabakuna para ligtas ang pamilya, ligtas ang bayan. Disiplinadong Pilipino ay rehistrado para maging bakunado.
President Rodrigo Duterte maintained that he will stand firm against the International Criminal Court and its full inquiry on his administration's drug war. In a speech during the inspection of airport and seaport projects in General Santos City, Duterte maintained that he will not submit himself to a tribunal with foreign judges even for the sake of human rights. The president has repeatedly stressed that the International Court does not have jurisdiction over Philippine affairs. Duterte also lamented the death of many policemen in the hands of drug suspects and the spread of illegal drugs that has brought harm to the youth. He also threatened anew to eliminate those involved in the illegal drug trade.
Yung human rights na yan, hindi ko pinapansin because I do not recognize them. I will not, for the life of me, face a tribunal tapos with the judges there are all whites. Hindi ako haharap ng tribunal ng mga puti. No. If I go to jail, it must be a sentence imposed by a Filipino judge.
Justice Secretary Bernardo Guevara reiterated calls to victims and their families to divulge details of deaths and abuses by rogue lawmen during anti-illegal drug operations. Guevara assured the government's commitment to uphold the law in investigating those alleged unwarranted deaths and illegal acts. He said those in need of legal assistance will be referred to the Public Attorney's Office or PAO, while security will be provided by the Witness Protection Program. Out of the initial 52 cases of drug war killings that have been reviewed, the DOJ found out that 32 failed to follow protocols like conducting paraffin tests or had missing documents. The majority of the cops involved were suspended for 31 days to 6 months, demoted, or even dismissed. Only 18 out of 20 private schools pushed through with the implementation of limited face-to-face classes on Monday. The Singapore School, Clark, and Xavier University Senior High School deferred their in-person classes due to their academic calendars. DepEd Bureau of Curriculum Development Director Jocelyn Andaya said the school showed how cooperation with the local government should go for the safe implementation of limited in-person classes. She also explained all participating private schools have undergone the same school safety assessment and validation as that of the public schools that opened their classes on November 15. Meanwhile, in General Santos City, 2 public schools are undergoing assessment and validation for possible inclusion in the ongoing limited face-to-face classes. The DepEd said they are determining whether it is safe to also resume in-person classes at the Clolang Elementary School and Datu B. Balunto Elementary School, both in Barangay San Jose. The city division started on November 15 the pilot limited face-to-face classes at Aspang Elementary School in Purok Aspang, Barangay San Jose, which is one of the identified low-risk areas in the city. Aspang High School was earlier endorsed for the holding of the traditional classroom-based classes. Several other private schools in the city have also signified readiness to open limited face-to-face classes. Two big warring political clans in Albarca, Basilan officially ended their feud amid efforts to hold peaceful local and national elections. The opposing factions of Albarca Mayor Darussalam Lajid and Vice Mayor Mujib Jakilan forged a peace covenant on Sunday, ending their more than 3-month dispute. Joint Task Force Basilan Commander Brigadier General Domingo Gobuay said Lajid and Jakilan pledged to sustain the peace and improve their relationship for the common good. They also promised to work for a clean, honest, and peaceful elections. The dispute between the camps of Lajid and Jakilan was caused by political disagreement. 2 people were killed when the followers of the 2 politicians clashed on August 3 in Albarca. The signing of the peace covenant between Lajid and Jakilan was witnessed by Muslim religious leaders and local government, police, and military officials. With the threat of African swine fever still looming as the holiday season draws near, authorities are working to ensure a steady supply of pork while helping meat producers hit by the swine pandemic to get back into business. Chris Mundo has the story.
The Bureau of Animal Industry in Negros Oriental has warned the public against pork, ham, and other swine byproducts that are manufactured or shipped from areas affected by African swine fever. This as the Christmas season nears and holiday shoppers are beginning to stockpile food items for their celebrations. BAI head Dr. Alfonso Tundag said consumers must check the label first and see where the ham and other pork products are manufactured. He, however, assured that so far they have not seized any smuggled raw or processed pork meat from areas with ASF cases. The Central Visayas provinces of Negros Oriental, Cebu, Bohol, and Siquijor remain ASF-free to date. In Ilocos Norte, the provincial board bared a total of 5 million pesos from its calamity fund to provide recovery assistance to ASF-hit farmers in the province. The amount is meant to cover at least 325 out of the total of 2,300 affected hog growers, which are not insured under the Department of Agriculture. Each recipient will receive 5,000 pesos per head for adult and 1,500 per head for young or those that fall under a day-old piglet to weaners. Currently, 19 out of the province's 23 local government units are affected by ASF. Meanwhile, the Department of Agriculture will pay out 9.1 million pesos in indemnification to swine raisers in Cagayan de Oro City and other parts of Misamis Oriental whose hogs were culled after being infected with ASF. A total of 571 hog raisers would receive 5,000 pesos per culled hog. Last month, DA Region 10 encouraged raisers and farmers to insure their hogs with the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation, noting that the agency would no longer pay out ASF-related indemnification. For its part, the DA Davao region has assured there would be ample supply of pork meat and its byproducts during the holiday season. However, a spike in market prices is expected due to its high demand during the period. The DA-11 also has to get an additional supply of pork meat from Bukidnon since hog farmers in the region allocate the bulk of their stocks for the holidays. DA-11 Director Abel James Monteagudo urged the public to report to their office should a certain store or stall sell overpriced pork meat products. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
More stories from the newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte is pleased with completed seaport and airport projects in General Santos City. And national and local officials voice concerns over the Senate's move to trim the NTF-LCAC's 2022 budget for the Barangay Development Program. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Kung customer ka, pupuntahan mo ba yung mukhang safe naman o yung certified na safe? Ang safety seal ay patunay na certified safe ang iyong business dahil nasusunod ang minimum public health standards. Meron din itong QR code para mapadali ang contact tracing. Ito ay libre lang. Pero, kailangang i-renew every 6 months or every year kung nasa tourism sector ang iyong business. Kung meron ka ng mga documents na ito, pwede ka na mag-apply para sa Safety Seal Certification. May iba-ibang office para sa iba't ibang klase ng mga negosyo. Pag na-determine nyo na ang issuing authority, simple lang ang steps para makuha ang safety seal. Pumunta sa office ng issuing authority o sa kanilang website. Kumuha ng safety seal checklist at magsagawa ng self-assessment para sa iyong business. I-submit ang checklist at abangan ang inspection schedule. Pag na-approve ang application, bibigyan kayo ng safety seal sticker. Pag hindi naman na-approve, sasabihin kung anong health standard ang hindi nasunod at bibigyan kayo ng pagkakataong ayusin ito. Pag nakuha na ang safety seal, ipaskil ito sa may entrance para makita agad ng mga customer. Pwede nyo rin ipagmalaki na certified safe kayo sa inyong mga social media pages. Paalala lamang, ang isang safety seal ay para sa isang branch lang. Siguraduhin bawat branch mo ay certified safe. Siguraduhin din na nasusunod palagi ang minimum public health standards dahil baka mabawi ang iyong certification. Maaring mag-operate kahit na walang safety seal. Pero hindi ba mas mahalagang kampante ang mga customer sa loob ng iyong negosyo? Kaya kumuha na ng safety seal para ingat-angat tayong lahat.
President Rodrigo Duterte inspected several key projects under the administration's Build, Build, Build infrastructure program in General Santos City. Duterte lauded the Department of Transportation during the inspection of the General Santos Airport and the Port Operations Building Complex in Macar Wharf. He said he is pleased with the completion of projects that would spur economic activities in General Santos City. Duterte said the city will take on the role Mindanao's key gateway to southern Mindanao. He affirmed his administration's commitment to deliver and accomplish long-lasting projects that will improve opportunities for Filipinos even beyond his term. The General Santos Airport's larger passenger terminal building will now be able to accommodate at least 2 million passengers annually. The Macar Port is the main gateway of products being shipped out from parts of Region 12. Presidential Communications Operations Office Secretary Martin Andanar protested the Senate's move to slash the proposed budget of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC. In an interview, Andanar said the budget cut on the NTF-LCAC's Barangay Development Program, or BDP, will hamper development efforts in the countryside, especially in conflict-affected areas. He stressed that the bulk of the proposed budget is allocated for giving jobs, education, and other forms of reintegration for former rebels. Andanar also expressed his support for the Duterte administration's anti-insurgency efforts. He slammed rumors that the budget will be used for military operations. Meanwhile, 3 governors and a mayor also voiced their concerns over the looming threat that communist terrorist groups will pose should the NTF-LCAC's 2022 funds be denied. Eastern Samar Governor Ben Evardone lashed out at senators pushing for the BDP cut, saying they are just using the COVID-19 pandemic for their political posturing. Bohol Governor Arthur Yap said they needed the BDP fund to fix the road network of 6 critical barangays in his province. For Davao Oriental Governor Nelson Dayanghirang, the BDP is the best long-term solution to the insurgency problem. Meanwhile, Abra de Ilog Mayor Eric Constantino in Occidental Mindoro reported that his municipality is now facing the insurgency threat as the NPA headquarters in Quezon Province and Laguna had been transferred in their area. Constantino called on the senators to consider how effective the NTF-LCAC's BDP is in providing far-flung communities of their basic needs. The Western Visayas Regional Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict has reminded the Commission on Human Rights to act fairly and stop undermining law enforcers and the judicial process. This came after Commissioner Karen Dumpit announced that the CHR is investigating the service of warrant of arrest against Maria Salome Crisostomo Uhano in Malolos City, Bulacan on November 14. The 64-year-old Uhano was charged with rebellion. Dumpit called Uhano a human rights offender and decried the arrest of advocates like her. Assistant Provincial Prosecutor Flosemer Cruz Gonzalez accused Dumpit of giving special attention to Uhano's case and not those of other fugitives. Gonzalez said that Uhano was not arrested because of her advocacy for women and children's rights. He pointed out that there are also advocates for the rights of those victimized by the CPP-NPA who need the voice and representation of the CHR. He also emphasized that Uhano will have her day in court. In sports, the Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association, or PATAFA, stands by its decision to investigate pole vaulter EJ Obiena. PATAFA said the probe was based on a statement from his coach Vitaly Petrov, backed up by a signed affidavit from Ukraine Olympic Committee President Sergei Bubka. Last Sunday, Obiena denied PATAFA's allegations that he has failed to pay for Petrov's services from May 2018 to August 2021. Petrov even confirmed that he has already received his salary in full. However, PATAFA claimed that Obiena had settled obligations with Petrov only recently this month. Obiena has demanded a full apology from PATAFA for allegedly tarnishing his reputation and threatened to retire early. In Baguio City, local officials are urging accommodation and other business owners to help prop each other up as they recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The City Council passed a resolution requesting hotels to provide spaces for souvenirs, delicacies, and pasalubong retailers or sellers. Vice Mayor Faustino Olawan said the request is part of efforts to boost the safe reopening of the local economy. He said it has been a practice that micro, small, and medium enterprises or MSMEs such as pasalubong sellers were allowed to conduct their businesses within the premises of hotels for the convenience of guests and customers. The Permits and Licensing Division and the Public Order and Safety Division, in coordination with the Hotel and Restaurant Association of Baguio, to formulate the appropriate guidelines. The city government started opening its doors to fully vaccinated non-essential travelers following a downtrend in COVID-19 cases. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The country's resupply mission arrives at the Ayungin Shoal without a hitch, a week after it was blocked by Chinese Coast Guard ships, drawing condemnation from the international community and President Rodrigo Duterte himself. The government's COVID-19 vaccination drive continues in full swing. The latest batch of 680,000 Moderna jabs will be used in vaccinating eligible minors and as booster shots for senior citizens and immunocompromised persons. President Rodrigo Duterte is not mincing his words against the International Criminal Court, saying he will only stand trial and go to jail if sentenced by a Filipino judge, a few days after the court halts its probe on his administration's war on drugs. And the National Privacy Commission will meet telcos over the spate of spam text messages preying on subscribers under the guise of dubious job offers and other schemes. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19.
So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19.
Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC13. And it is exactly 32 days more to go before Christmas. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.